Hey friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. Today we're out here on a blustery winter day in Arizona. It's a balmy 62 degrees, so I'm really sort of dressed for the occasion today, but it's a very special day because we're test driving the new 2015 Kia Sedona minivan. Now minivans are typically not that exciting, but as you can see here, they've done something a little more daring with the styling, particularly there in the back. Up front here, they've got more of a crossover sport utility sort of look, and inside they've done something completely different. So let's have a look. At first glance, the Sedona minivan is different. It has a sporting yet business-like feel that has a more upscale sense than most in its class. You'd almost say if Audi built a minivan, it might look like this. That's no accident, as the lead designer for Kia spent much of his career at Audi and helped pen many of their iconic models. It's more daring than Audi tends to be in some ways, like in the rear three-quarter where the hip line kicks up somewhat dramatically. The front view, on the other hand, takes a more blunt and purposeful theme with a stance that's more akin to a crossover SUV. It's upright and even bold, and the upsized 19-inch wheels on our SXL really give it a look of having big paws. At first sit behind the wheel, what comes across is the wide horizontal dash design that looks handsome, and the high center console with a transmission shifter mounted there, much like you'd find in an SUV. The look is fresh for a minivan and places controls smartly in the center stack in a layout similar to many higher-end luxury sedans. The steering wheel has plenty of controls too, which give you redundancies for the infotainment system as well as an instrument cluster display. The seats in our Sedona SXL had a two-tone Napa leather treatment that was tasteful, and they offered up both heating and ventilation with power adjustments for both up front. Comfort and adjustability was excellent across the board. You know, my big takeaway with this interior is that it feels very un-minivan-like. The overall horizontal design here, this high center console with this gear shift mounted right there where it should be instead of on the dash or a column shifter, it just feels a lot more sporty than most minivans. And when you combine that with this higher seating position that allows you to see over the dash instead of feeling like you're sitting down in it and behind it, well, it's just fresh and new. I like it. The latest Uvo infotainment and navigation system offers up excellent sound and improved menus. Best of all, Kia no longer forces you to press their legal disclaimer button to access the menus. It will disappear on its own. It offers plenty of device connectivity options, including Bluetooth wireless as well as USB on auxiliary plugs. There's also a 115-volt outlet for smaller devices on the console, in addition to plenty of 12-volt power points. In the rear cargo area, there's even a 115 and 12-volt plug in addition to a removable flashlight. That gets us to the seating, which includes a fold-flat third row, which is manually folded here, but not too difficult. They give you a flat floor when folded and a nice deep well cargo area when in the upright position. Second row lounge chairs in our Sedona SXL slide a good distance front to rear and offer a side-to-side sliding adjustment to allow for center aisle pass-through when needed. But when you're using those ottomans, they have to be slid back and therefore are together. No center aisle when you're doing that. The only major critique of the Sedona's interior was the quality of some plastic finishes, which are already showing wear on our relatively new tester. Under the hood is a 3.3-liter direct-injected V6 engine, good for 276 horsepower but only 248 pound-feet of torque, which comes at a pretty high 5,200 RPM. Power is delivered through the front wheels and a 6-speed automatic transmission. Now this engine delivers its horsepower in a pretty smooth and refined manner for being such a small engine and so highly tuned. The only area where I wonder if it has enough is in the area of torque. This being a minivan, people are going to have a lot of passengers in this, a lot of gear, road trips, camping. Torque really comes in handy, and that's the only area I wonder how capable this engine really is for this vehicle. The chassis is all new for 2015 with a torsional strength Kia says is 36% stiffer than its closest competitor. It's made of 76% high-strength steel, which contributes to the tighter feel and increased safety over last year's Sedona. Out here at highway speed, this has a very quiet ride. Road noise is at a minimum, even here on this noisy pavement of this particular highway I'm on. The other thing is the wind noise is also very low. We've got sunroofs here, we've got these big mirrors, and I'm not getting a lot of noticeable wind noise from them, which is a good thing. Now, this is also equipped with the minders, the driver assistance aids, blind spot warning, crash avoidance for the front, and lane departure warning. So if I were to drift into the lane next to me, I get a warning here. Now, if I use a turn signal like I'm supposed to, and then change lanes, it's not going to do that. It's actually a pretty neat way to teach yourself to use the turn signal like you're supposed to. It has a McPherson strut front suspension and a multi-link rear, which is more precise than the twist beam axle found in some minivans. Electric power assisted steering here has a good feel and balance that doesn't get any negative attention by feeling artificial. The handling feel driving around town in the Sedona is a little more in common with a crossover SUV than some of the last minivans that I've test driven. Often the minivans tend to have a little bit more roll in these corners, where this has a much more flat cornering attitude, and the ride a little bit more of a staccato feel, meaning that it's got a slightly stiffer suspension and the steering's a little tighter, so you don't feel like you're driving a big huge lumbering box, and that's a good thing. The EPA rates the 2015 Kia Sedona at 17 mpg city, 22 mpg highway, and 19 mpg combined. We were able to achieve a bit higher with 22 mpg combined city and highway actual in our time with the Sedona. When it comes to safety, the IIHS rates the 2015 Kia Sedona as a top safety pick. It achieves a good rating in all of their crash tests, including the brutal new small overlap crash. It offers only basic crash prevention systems, however, which is why it didn't achieve the top safety pick plus status. Summing it up for the Kia Sedona, I have to say I'm very impressed with its overall design and its driving character. It's very un-minivan-like. In fact, I really think this styling really comes across as cool for a change. After all, so many minivans, they're very schleppy and sort of downtrodden, and they say things about people that really scare them away from the minivan in general and send them off to crossovers. And here, I think this is a minivan that people less than 70 might actually like to drive and show up to places in and be seen in. Now that said, Kia always has this pricing model of offering a lot of value for the money, and this is no different. As we look at the price, we're just over $40,000 and we're nearly fully loaded. If you compare this to a Honda or a Toyota similarly equipped, you're going to be spending quite a few $1,000s more. And when you consider here you get the 10-year 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, that just adds more value to the equation. Now as we look at the stars here, we come in across the board pretty good. Kia really went a long way in my heart by changing their infotainment system, where they don't make you press the I agree disclaimer button every single time you get in the vehicle to go on about your way. That really made me happy, I gotta say. Now, as we look at the stars, the only area where I really would like to see more is that engine. It's got plenty of horsepower, but the torque is a little bit on the low side, and if you load this thing up with a lot of people in gear, that's something you're really going to notice. It'd be nice to have a little bit more low and mid-range torque there, but overall, we got 4.5 stars for the week, which is very good. I'm Sam Haymar for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride.